Okay, we'll be wrapping up section 5.5 today. We're going to be working through example 7, and then you're going to try 8, and then we'll wrap it up with example 10 as well as a follow-up to yesterday's lesson, previous days. All right, so using the given conditions, determine the quadrant in which the half angle lies, and then find the exact value of these three things using the half angle formulas above. All right, so notice though, if we're kind of looking ahead at part B, in order to simplify these and find these, we need cosine of angle U, okay? They give us sine of U, so that helps here for tangent, but we still need to find cosine angle U. So just like we did on some other problems like this, take the information that they gave us and let's create a little sketch. Here it says angle U is between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi, or 270, right? 270 to 360. So that's in quadrant 4. So I'm going to put an angle in quadrant 4 over here. I'm trying to save all this space for the work, so you might want to do the same. So it rotates over, either positive or negative, doesn't matter. Here it is. Sine is y over r, or opposites over hypotenuse. So I got a negative 24 here and 25 here. Okay, so we need to find the unknown side. It works out to be 7. It happens to be a Pythagorean triple, but if you don't have that memorized, we could just do leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. And once you do the math, it works out to be positive 7. Okay. All right, and now we have cosine of angle U. We have sine, but eventually we're going to need cosine. So let's just jot that down so it's in front of us. Cosine of angle U will be 7/25. Okay, so part A says we got to figure out the quadrant in which the half angle lies. This is the full angle. I was going to say theta, but U. All right, so here's part A. How do we figure out where it lies? What you want to do, you probably want to put this in degrees, so let me kind of clear this up. Angle U is less than 360 and greater than 270. Okay, but they're asking, where does the half angle lie? Well, we can create another inequality for the half angle by dividing this by 2. So divide by 2, all of these, all three pieces. Because if I divide the middle by 2, right, I get the half angle. Divide this by 2, I get 180 degrees. And divide that by 2. Okay, so that's what you need to do for part A. It says, you've got some information they gave us on U. Well, then half that angle must lie somewhere between 135 and 180 then if we divide it all by 2. Okay, so what quadrant would that, are those possibilities? So you just kind of think through, you know, like 136, 137, all the way to 180. Where does that lie? So it could be 135 is probably somewhere around there, and then 180 somewhere around here. So, right, it's in this range. Okay, just can't see the picture, sorry. 135 to 180 means it's somewhere in this section, right? Okay, so that's in quadrant 2. Okay, so we're going to need that when we get to part B, because a smart trig class means sine is the only one that's going to be positive when we find the half angles. All right, so that's why they want you to do that separately in part A. So we can make note of it here. That's in quadrant 2. Quadrant 2, only sine of the half angle will be positive. Only sine of the half angle will be positive. Okay, all right, so that sets us up for a little bit of success for part B. Let's move on to part B. Okay, part B, let's find the sine of the half angle. So sine of U over 2 is equal to, remember we always have a decision to make on the sign. It says plus or minus. Okay, but we just made that, in part A, we made that determination. The half angle is in the second quadrant, sine is positive. So just so we know for our notes, we're making that decision right now. We're going to go with positive on the next step. Okay. Now it says 1 minus cosine u. Right? 1 minus cosine u, and we found cosine u as well to be 7/25. So 1 minus 7/25 all over 2. Okay, so we've got a complex fraction again, a fraction inside a fraction. So you just multiply by the common denominator is the best and quickest way to get through this, in my opinion, but not the only way. Okay, so I'm going to multiply the top by 25. So 25 times 1. 25 times 7/25, those are going to cross reduce, and I'm just left with minus 7 now. And on the bottom, 25 times 2 gives us 50. All right, so fraction's gone. Notice it's positive, so if we don't write positive, we're assuming it's positive, of course, so like all numbers. So now I've got 18 up top over 50. This fraction can be reduced. Okay, so if you want to make note of that, we're reducing. Reduce the fraction. I'm dividing both of them by the even number 2, right? So we get 9/25. I'm going to continue right here. And it just so happened that for this problem, both of them are perfect squares. I can take the square of 9. You know, you might not need this step in between. I guess I'm just kind of breaking it down so you understand what we're doing. Considering the square of the top and the square of the bottom separately. So we get 3/5. That's the answer. Okay, for cosine of angle or half angle, let's see if the math is going to be a little similar, but we're going to simplify a little different. So you try that one. Make a decision on the sign right away. For cosine, it just says 1 plus cosine u. Okay, let's see if we can simplify this on your own. Pause to try it. All right, here's the half angle for cosine. So when we add the 7/25, it says subtract it. We end up with 32 here, that's all. But multiplying by 25, very similar numbers here, very similar math. We can reduce that fraction again to 16/25, which both of those have perfect square roots as well. So -4/5. This is negative, again, because of our work in part A. We already determined that only sign's positive. The other ones would be negative. So cosine's negative. All right, so when we do the tangent one, there's not a plus or minus in there. The sign will just take care of itself when you plug these in. And we'll see that happen right now. So 1 minus cosine up top. So 1 minus 7/25 all over sine of angle u, which was given -24/25. Okay, another complex fraction. Multiplying by 25 over 25 will really help us out. Okay, 25 times 1. 25 times this one, the crosses reduces, and we just get 7. And then this one gone again. So I just end up with -24 down here. Okay, so this gives me 18 divided by a -24. So we're going to have a negative fraction. Told you the sign will just take care of itself, and then we can reduce this. Let's see, 6 goes into both of these, so it's 3/4. -3/4 is the answer. Okay, so for the next problem, let's at least, part A sometimes is the toughest part. But let's skip part B, because then I want to review example 10. You'll get a chance to do this in your OTI anyways. All right, so for number 8, what I want you to do is practice that question that says this. Determine the quadrant in which the half angle lies. All right, so if you're at home, pause and try that. All right, so angle U is from 180 to 270. So they're asking where half the angle lies, so we're creating a new inequality for the half angle. You could leave it in radians if you want to. I just think most of you probably prefer to put it in degrees, but you don't have to. I could just kind of multiply all this by half, right? And get 3 pi over 4 and pi over 2. All right, so taking half of this is going to be 135. So it's got to be less than 135 and greater than 90. Okay, so 90 to 135, again, is kind of this section right here. If we're rotating around, here's 90, here's 135. So it could be somewhere in here, right? So we're back to quadrant 2 again. It's a little different section than the last one. All right, so to answer their question, where does the half angle lie? It lies in quadrant 2. So it lies in quad 2. And now it will help us with our signs in part B because only sign is positive here. Okay. All right, let's move on to number 10 though. Let's not do part B yet. We'll get a chance to review some of these things in number 10. What if they actually give us an angle like they did on 9? Well, if they give us a radians angle, it's probably best, and I'm okay with this, just change it 2 degrees right away. And it's going to be a little more manageable for you guys to work through. Okay, so remember, we take 3 pi over 8. You might want to multiply it by 180 over pi to get rid of that pi, and then you do the math and multiply it, and we get 67.5 degrees. Okay. All right, so again, if we were going to go find the sine of 67.5 degrees, we would have a hard time with that. So sine of 67.5 degrees, we don't have a good reference angle. So they're indicating in the directions to use a half angle. So what we want to do is double this angle. Okay, if I double this angle, and go to my calculator and times 2, it gives me 135. 135 is an angle we can work with. So I'm going to write that angle as theta over 2. Remember, these have to have the same value, and they do. But now 135 is something we can work with the formula. Okay. All right. So then we've got, this is a guide up top here from the other day. So you should be able to do most of the work here. Okay. So go ahead. Do the half angle for sine. Since cosine is so close, for no purposes, let's skip this one for now and go to the tangent. All right. So I want you to try sine and tangent. Pause and give it a shot. Give about 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, so we need to go find cosine 135. So here it is. Don't forget x is negative in the second quadrant. So cosine would be negative square root of 2 over 2. So now I can dump this into the formula. Okay. Now in deciding on the sine, this is our angle. We definitely know that's in the first quadrant. All are positive on 67.5. So we're going positive. And now let's just do the algebra. So we throw that in there, kind of like we did on the previous lesson. Right here, we still have the same denominator, so we'll multiply by 2 to get rid of it. So that's what we're going to do next. Multiply the top by 2, bottom by 2, gives me this. 2, and then these are going to cross reduce, so I just have square root of 2, and I need to add it. Bottom, I get 4. Take the square root of 4, and I got my answer. Can't do much with the top, so leave that under the radical. On the bottom, I get 2. There's the answer. Okay. All right, tangent. Here's my values. Clear the fractions again. So I get 2. This one's going to cancel out. So plus the square root of 2, and then the bottom, we get square root of 2. Now here's the catch with this one. You just got to rationalize it. Just like we would with cosine over here, and we had negative 1 over square root of 2, we have to rationalize, multiply by the radical. So you'd have to do that here as well. So multiply by square root of 2 over square root of 2 to get rid of that. Because now on the bottom, I get square root of 4, which is 2. Up top, distribute. So I get 2 square root of 2. And then this one is back to square root of 4, or just 2. Okay, last step, just reduce this. If I divide both these by 2, or split it up if you need to, I get square root of 2 plus 1 when I divide those. Okay. And that's it for this lesson.